The second thing that you guys said that you struggled with that's really, really difficult right now is something that you can control, and it's lifestyle creep. It is the idea that as I progress along in my financial journey, as I have more success, as I get older, as my family grows, the level of my expenses steadily increases through time to where all of a sudden I wake up one day and the lifestyle that I'm living today is very different than the lifestyle I was living 3, 5, or even 10 years ago.
Well, and look, lifestyle creep by itself in moderation is not a bad thing.
Not bad.
Because there is a fine line between financial mutant and financial miser.
Yep.
And I don't want you, just every time you get a pay raise, 100% goes towards your savings and investments to the point that your family, your friends go, "What? You should be successful at this point." But that's not what we're talking about. What I'm talking about is just what we've seen. There's so many people out there, and look at these survey results. 47% of Americans making over $100,000 or more live paycheck to paycheck.
Now, I got to believe those folks probably didn't start out making $100,000. And if they're person that started their career, I'm going to make up a number, at $40,000. If they could look back on that person and say, "Oh, I'm living paycheck to paycheck," that $40,000 younger version of themselves, how is that possible? Well, lifestyle creep is exactly how that happens.
Well, and look at this other stat. A quarter of Americans making over $175,000 or more say they feel tight, poor, or very poor. And we did this show. We came up with this content idea about a week and a half ago.
Yep.
And just to prove how this is something that surrounds us at all times, there was an article that came out in the last week. Look at this headline. My family of 4 can no longer live comfortably on $230,000 a year. Here's how much the American dream really costs. So I would tell you guys, there's a lot of people, without a doubt, inflation has been tough. But for a lot of people, I think they've let lifestyle creep get the best out of them because they're when you have a healthy income and yet you're still living paycheck to paycheck, I don't think you have an income problem. Mm-hmm. You have a lifestyle and spending problem. So let's talk about how do we keep and contain lifestyle creep so you still get all your financial goals fulfilled.
So what's the first thing you can do? The first thing you can do is know your why. We always talk about wealth creation has 3 ingredients. It has discipline, it has money, and it has time. Well, the discipline to sacrifice some of today for a better tomorrow is difficult. So you better understand, okay, why am I choosing to sacrifice this? What is that light at the end of the tunnel that I'm working for? Because if you don't have that clearly defined, it's going to be really, really easy just to give up on it. Just say, "Oh, you know what? I'm not going to save for the future. I don't need to do that. I'm going to live in the here and now, and I'm just going to enjoy today instead of thinking about tomorrow." The more clearly you can have a vision for what the future you should look like, the more likely you are to stay disciplined and continue saving even as success changes, even as lifestyle changes.
Well, I think if you know your why, you'll quit moving the goalposts. Something I see living in an affluent community like where we are here in Tennessee is that you see people with their car decisions, you see people with going to a bigger house, you even see the private schools that people, and then they realize, holy cow, even with a very healthy income, I have created a lifestyle that's not sustainable unless everything is working perfectly. So if you know your why, if you know what money as a tool can do for you, you won't keep pushing the elements to get the bigger car, the bigger house, and all those things that maybe that just doesn't reflect and bring you as much happiness as you originally thought. And I want to talk about, so getting your why and your headspace right, but let's talk about how we make this kind of automatic. And one of the first things you can do is make your good habits easy, make the bad habits hard. And the way you make good habits easy is let's create an automatic investment plan so that there's no way you can screw this up. What I like to think about is I told you that lifestyles creep in itself is not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with, as you get a pay raise, that you take a moment to celebrate, that you even increase your lifestyle. But how about doing something like a 60-40 split? Why don't we let 60% of that pay raise go towards the future and saving, then let lifestyle only increase by 40%? Yeah. If you can always have that split where you're getting better at saving and building versus being better at consuming and spending, I think it's a much better value proposition for the long term.
Yeah, another thing you can do that will help make the good habit easy is figure out those little celebratory milestones. If you're not tracking your annual net worth statement, start doing that right now. We have an entire template, an entire tool that you can use. You can go to www.moneyguide.com, because what you will see is that if you are tracking your net worth on an annual basis, it will reinforce the decisions you're making. It will give you the fuel to say, okay, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this. And if you can consistently create that habit over time, well, then it does become easy, and you are constantly reminded of why you are making the decisions that you're making.
On the bad habits hard. It cracks me up, Bo. You and I, little age difference between us, but we share a brain.
Just a little small.
And the fact, I think we coined this term forced scarcity, and what that means. And I want you guys to go on this financial mutant journey with us, and the fact that I recognized that, and I kind of already alluded to this when I talked about the 60-40 split, as my income went up, I would start automatically increasing my forced savings and other things. So I was creating a forced scarcity environment. Even though I was having more financial success in life, every dollar had a purpose. Sure. It was going automatically to different pots of money, to different goals. So when I was looking at my checking account, I kind of felt poor, even though assets are being built. And that, I think that scarcity is a healthy thing, because what you don't want to get in a situation, we've already kind of covered it, is somebody who makes a great income, but you're living paycheck to paycheck, because if you don't have discipline, that key ingredient, it will get away from you. And think about also when you're trying to build financial independence, if you're spending, if your lifestyle keeps growing, that's going to require a bigger and bigger pot of money. If you can add some scarcity to your life in the way you enjoy, you know what you enjoy spending money on that brings you happiness, so you can focus on that. But you know what really is kind of noise? It lets you get your footprint small enough, so financial independence is that much easier to obtain as well.
I love what you said. You know what you truly value. You know what you truly enjoy. So that way you don't fall into that trap of buying the bigger car just for the sake of the bigger car, the nicer house just for the sake of the nicer house. Make sure that you're constantly reevaluating the things that you spend money on to make sure, oh, okay, I spend money on this thing because it matters to me, not because I'm trying to impress someone else around me whose opinion really does not matter at all. So the more truly you can understand your value metrics, the more likely you are to line up your spending to match those things that really are important to you, not the things that should not be focused on.
And I think to kind of ward off the fake it until you make it, because I think a lot of young people do that, is if you can know what you truly value, and then also remember that wealth building takes time.
That's right.
I mean, I think if people had the context to understand, the typical millionaire is 49 years of age. And they've been building 49 years of age after building and working to build wealth for 28 years. So that's why give yourself some grace. Give yourself patience to reach the boiling point, is because it might take you 10 years to truly catch traction. And that's why we love to show this slide. This is very valuable, is to show why $100,000 is kind of the most important. Because look at this. Bo, if you're putting $10,000 a year into investments, and you're making on average 8% a year historically, it might take you close to 8 years to reach that first $100,000. But the good news is, look how much faster that second $100,000 comes to you. It's almost in half. It's 4.7 years, and then the next 100,000 is 3.4. And then you fast forward out when you're about to get to $1 million. It took you just right at a year to add that last $100,000. This thing builds exponentially, not linearly, but you gotta take the time to put the foundation work in and bedazzle your basic life. Have some of that discipline and that sacrifice in there. Don't let the lifestyle creep take away your opportunity to let your money build and grow.
I love it. And the more you let your lifestyle creep, the harder it is to walk that back down the hill. So stay conscious of it at all areas of life. Even when you're going from making $30,000 a year to $35,000 a year, be aware of how that can happen.